Sub-zero temperatures, emergency aerial repairs restore transmissions at Durris. We join the IBA chairman for an on-the-spot report.
In regular transmitter news, conversion work at existing stations for Channel 4 and new relays at Kinver in Staffordshire, Penderyn in South Wales and Lulworth on the Dorset coast.
Transmitter news first, and we start with a recap of the situation in Scotland at Durris. On Tuesday the 17th of January, the distribution feeders at the top of the 1,000-foot mast, carrying signals to the two separate UHF aerials, were damaged by overheating, as were both parts of the aerial itself. We still don't know the cause, but the result was that all channels went off the air.
The severe weather at Durris at first prevented repair work. The mast is over 1,000 feet high, and the top is nearly 2,000 feet above sea level. With roads in the area blocked by snow, any mast climbing was a hazardous operation, and on some days quite impossible. In the meantime, as an emergency measure, Grampian Television and BBC Scotland were brought on the air at the BBC radio site at Red Moss. On Wednesday, we were at last able to restore transmissions from Durris itself, using temporary aerial panels. On Friday, joining the aerial riggers and engineers on site, the IBA's chairman, Lord Thompson.
Lord Thompson, what is the purpose of your visit?
Well, the main purpose was to come up to this mountain top of Durris and to thank the workers who have, in the most terrible circumstances, worked very, very hard, chipping away the ice to try and get as much service back to as many people as quickly as possible.
There has been a certain amount of criticism, though, of the amount of time it's taken to get Durris back in the air.
I think if you saw the circumstances up here on Durris, nobody would criticise what has been done. I think that the speed with which a very large part of the area has had a reasonably good television service restored, not a perfect one, but a reasonably good one, is really admirable.
But were there adequate contingency plans for happening like this?
This is a totally unique happening. In 30 years of television, it's never happened before. Throughout the country, there's always a reserve aerial standing by, and in this case, both the aerials were knocked out simultaneously. Never happened before.
Some of the charred aerial panels have now been lowered for inspection, with the results of the fire damage clearly visible.
Some of the lower panels at the seat of the fire are molten aluminium bits, and like we saw in the opposite. As I say, normally it has a small cover up there to protect these rather fragile dipoles. When people are walking, they have to walk in front of them, normally for maintenance, when the transmitters are off. But that's completely black, and we've sent that to try and clean it up.
What were conditions like at the mast in the height of the storms?
Well, at the time there would be possibly 6 or 7 inches of ice on most of the bracings, the legs and stuff like that. And the ladder was more or less filled in solid with ice. We had to chip our way, especially at the last 300 feet. And like I say, it was very difficult. It took us a long time.
Did you actually keep on working through the height of the storms?
Not in the height of the storm, no, obviously it was just impossible. I mean, we had to wait for eyes in the weather and just go in when we could, but like I say, for most of the time, we just went in when the wind died down and as soon as it stopped snowing.
Was it really practical to try and work in that kind of weather?
It wasn't really practical, no. Under normal circumstances, we would just never been near the thing. It's just really not on.
How did you actually get up to the top?
Well, the first time it was just a walk-up, but which normally would take 45 minutes. It took us 3 hours that day, just to go and have the initial look.
Do you think the worst is over now?
Well, I would hope so. If we get the temporary aerial lifted, it will be, certainly.
The temporary aerial panels will shortly be replaced by this reserve aerial, which has since been put into position on the mast. This will give a further improvement in coverage within the next few days, doubling the radiated power on ITV and BBC Scotland, also bringing back BBC 2 and Channel 4 to Durris. In the immediate future, areas to the southwest of the transmitter will continue to have problems, but we hope to add even more aerial panels in a week or so. It could be some months before the original aerial is restored to normal working.
To be good at this job, you've got to be physically fit, mentally deficient, and we are neither.
I actually received a phone call from a lady in Aberdeen, and she was saying how much she appreciated us climbing the mast and working in such severe conditions, and all that. I just can't remember her name at the moment, but like I say, it was nice to get the phone call.